I'm sure you've heard before that relationship matters. And it truly does if you're planning on building your fulfilling life, wonderful family, or pursuing a successful, rewarding professional career. Then, if that's true, yes, relationship matters. Healthy relationships create a healthy culture within any organization. Welcome to the Creative Monday Discussion Show. I am your host, Mervyn Budram, and we are creatives transforming lives. Welcome back to the Creative Monday Discussion Show. I am your host, Mervyn Budram, and I will be with you for the next hour. I am really looking forward to tonight's episode. And I know every week I say I'm excited. And this is because, part of what we're doing with this show, we're talking about things that inspire, motivate, and transform life. And that's what's really dear to my heart. It's my desire, it's my passion to see transformation happen in the lives of people and to see entrepreneurs and creatives use their giftings, use their talent, use their platform to bring change in our community. Tonight, I want to welcome you guys, everyone who's tuned in here on Facebook. It's good to have Facebook back up. I actually thought we wouldn't have Facebook tonight, but we have Facebook up. We have those tuning in on YouTube. We have those tuning on TNC, as well as our friends in Europe on Carib. Invest TV. I want to say welcome to the Creative Monday Discussion Show. Thank you for making this show your show. And we want to know where in the world you're tuning from. So we have our comment section both on Facebook, both on YouTube, that you can just leave us a message, a shout out to let us know where you're from. If you have conversations, you have questions, if you have questions, you have comments, you want to tune, share your thoughts and opinions on what we're talking about, use our comment section. We want to know your thoughts. We want to know where you're tuning from. And then as well, if you're watching on TNC, we know you're not online, but you can still participate. You can simply send a WhatsApp message to 501 623-7898, and we will get that message. I see Emir Sosa from Chicago. Welcome. Thank you for tuning in, Emir. It's a pleasure having you with us tonight. I'm really excited to have you. I see Joshua Budram from right here in Bamapan. That's my brother. Thank you, Josh, for being a part of the show. And again, we want to know where you guys are tuning from, so send those comments. I just want to let you guys know that tonight's episode is brought to you by Debbie Jolie. And actually, before I even go to that, tonight we are actually talking about the essentials of building strong and healthy and fostering healthy relationships in the workplace. So I'm really looking forward to that. And again, tonight's episode is brought to you by Debbie Jolie. She's a good friend. She's actually a past guest. And so if you want to go and look up our past episodes on our site, it's thecreativemondayshow.com. We have episodes from all our past guests. And Debbie Jolie is from Trinidad and Tobago. She's actually one of our experts that was a guest talking about marketing, sales. And so tonight's episode is brought to you by Debbie Jolie, Caribbean-based marketing strategist and business development consultant.
My philosophy for growing your business requires a fully integrated approach. This requires a number of sales and marketing activities. These activities should drive sales, bring visibility, and help with branding. Do you know what these activities are? Are you measuring them in your organization? Stop complaining about not meeting your targets if you are not willing to put in the effort to get the results you want. I am Debbie Jolie, and I am a marketing strategist.
All right, thank you, Debbie. And guys, if you want to learn more about Debbie, go to her website, www.debbiejolie.com, and you can connect with her and learn more about her services and what she has to offer. As I said, tonight's episode is all about relationship. I'm really excited about this topic, and I'm ready to introduce our guest. But before I do, again, I want to give a couple shout out to some other folks I see commenting. Ian Magana from Kikaker. Oh, wow. We have Key Cocker with us tonight. Thank you, Ian, for tuning in. I see Stephen Palmer from right here in Belmopan. Thank you, Stephen, for joining in and being a part of the discussion tonight. Guys, we're really excited when you choose to spend your time. I know you could do so much other things with your time, but you choose to spend this time with us, and we're very excited for that. Let's jump in. We normally do our 101 segment, but we decided tonight not to do that because we really want to extract a lot more from our guests and allow more time for him to really share, right? And so I want to take this opportunity to introduce our guest for tonight. His name is Mark Gordon. I met him through a friend of mine, Patty George, actually. And Mark was in Belize a few years back working with us in Legacy. And I was very much inspired by his life, his grace, just the way he presented himself, the care and nurture in how he communicated. And so it's just a pleasure to have him with us tonight. And so Mark has been involved in faith business and communication leadership for more than 30 years. Currently, he's sharing his life's learning as a professional speaker and executive coach. His passion for people is evident whether speaking, writing, or coaching. He's dedicated to inspire and empower people, families, and organizations to become relationally, emotionally, and spiritually healthy. He has recently released a book called Relationship Matters, an essential blueprint for building strong families and fostering healthy relationships. And so I just want to ask you guys to help me welcome him by showing some likes. You can click the like button, the love button, and help me welcome Mark to the screen. Good evening, Mark. How are you doing?
Hey, Mervin, it's so good to see you and to be on the show with you. It's
It's a
awesome.
pleasure having you, Mark, man. I've been looking forward to this discussion for a few weeks now. So thank
Yeah.
you for taking out of your time for being with us.
Oh, it's an honor, and I just really, when I was in Belize and I met you and just see the work you're doing there, it's just fantastic. And so, anything I can do to support that great work, I'm in.
Thank you, Mark. I really, really
Yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah,
So Mark, let's. I know I gave a mouthful introduction for you at the beginning here, but help Belize get to know you a little bit more. Tell us a little bit about who you are. Kind of break it down for us, your background, and kind of how you got into the space you're in.
yeah. Well, I was born into a family that was quite religious, and in an era when if your family wasn't in order, the perception was that you weren't fit for leadership. And so,
Mm,
as a result of that pressure, my dad was pretty angry a lot of the time, and I grew up with this belief that I had this fear of failure. And so a lot of my life was trying to prove myself or to try and earn that, that respect and to earn whatever I could earn. And so as I was growing up, I grew up under this tremendous pressure, and it affected me really poorly, and I made some bad decisions. And that led to many years of addiction and of hurting the people I loved. And I just never really learned how to have healthy relationships. I was too self-centered, to be honest,
yeah,
and I was too self-focused. There's self-centeredness, but there's also self-focus. So everything I was processing went through that grid or that filter of failure, and so that led to a lot of difficult times. And it wasn't until my wife actually was pregnant with our son. And it was when that little boy was handed to me for the first time, and I saw him in my hands, and something inside of me connected with the responsibility
mm,
that I had in raising this young boy, and that I wanted to give him every opportunity to flourish and to grow. But I had no idea what that meant. I had no idea how to do that. And it was the beginning. I'd like to say that was the end of my addiction, but it was the beginning of my healing journey. And
yeah,
I had a couple more years of struggle, but ultimately that led to me coming to faith, and it led to me allowing people to start speaking into my life and to start teaching me how to relate. And of course, that journey has been a lifetime journey now,
yeah,
and I've learned how central. When I look back, on hindsight's always 2020, right? When I look back, I realized all the symptoms, addiction and selfishness, all those things, they were all just symptoms of a deeper issue. And the deeper issue is that I didn't have a healthy relationship with myself.
Yeah.
I didn't know my value. I didn't
Yeah.
know who I was as a person. And so I had this identity crisis. And so what happened was, of course, is I'm trying to backfill that crisis with all kinds of things. And none of them really worked, right? And so
Yeah.
it wasn't until I discovered that I was loved and treasured, that I had value, that I could start to really discover who I was, what my purpose was in life. And that is really a big part of my life now, is that I want people to know that they have purpose, and I want to encourage them that purpose can be discovered through healthy relationships. And so I'm on a mission to help families, to help organizations, to help business understand that everything flows out of relationship. And if we don't have our relationships healthy, then everything else around it is on shaky ground. And so that's really what's led me to this point now. I've been in various roles through the years. I was in business. I learned very young, by the way. I was very entrepreneurial from a young age, because I made some bad decisions. I didn't finish school. I only have a grade 8 education. I didn't finish school because of my life choices. And so I had to learn how to sell. I had to learn how to sell things and to create business, or create things that I could make a living from. And so I always said I worked hard and partied hard when I was younger. Uh, and so, it led. And so now throughout the years, I've done everything from own businesses to run nonprofit charities to being a pastor, and all of those things. I always brought that entrepreneurial spirit to it. And I
I
think
love it.
that's just part of how I'm wired. It's just
I
part of
love it.
how I was created. And so, yeah, I want to bring that creative entrepreneurship to whatever it is I'm doing.
Yeah, Mark, I really love that. I love how you've been able to really like articulate that and capture that. And one of the things, several things I've written down here that kind of stood out to me, and I'd like for us to
Mhm.
like dive in a little bit more. When you had like the aha moment, for me, what I saw clearly, there was a vision that you saw. Like, I don't want my son to be like this, and I want a different life for my son. And many times, without vision, we cast off restraint. Without vision, we
Yeah.
don't exercise discipline. Vision is such a powerful thing. And I've been thinking a lot about this because vision has a lot to do with what we see. But you also said something else, like you were struggling with just your self-worth, and that has a lot to do with what we're listening to, that voice we're listening to that's playing in our minds. And again, these are very fresh things for me as I'm working out my own journey and my own path forward to freedom and wholeness, right? And so vision, grabbing a hold of vision to help fuel you forward, but you also need that purpose. You need that voice that will kind of continue resonate in your mind to kind of, this is who you are, this is your work, this is your value, to kind of rewire what's going on up here. Can you talk to us a little bit more about the power of vision and the power of purpose?
Yeah. So I have come to discover that I have this term: engagement reveals purpose.
Hmm.
What I mean by that is, when you are engaged in something, whether it's business, whether it's work, whether it's community work, whether it's whatever, engaged in that, you will start to believe, you'll start to reveal and start to see what your purpose is in life. And I always tell people, your purpose is tied with your gifts and abilities, with
Yeah.
your hopes and dreams, with your desire to succeed. Like it's all tied into, you have the personality, and everything kind of aligns with that vision. And so that's why without a vision, there's chaos, or there's
Yeah.
trouble, because we want to live on purpose, not by accident. And so when I had that epiphany that I was created with a purpose, my next question was it was like, well, what is it? I want to
Yeah.
discover this.
Yeah.
I want to live that out. And so vision is so powerful. Now I want to talk about, in fact, I do an exercise with even families of creating a vision statement and a mission statement and a
Mhm.
set of values. And I always say the vision and mission is like riverbanks. The vision and mission are your riverbanks in life. And so it keeps me going in the right direction of my purpose. And without vision, I wouldn't be able to do that. And so
Yeah.
they're
It's good.
intrinsically tied together. And that's why I believe some companies, some businesses fail. That's why families fail, because they don't have a vision that holds them together and keeps them going in the same direction. So you have to have that vision and mission so that you're going in the same direction. And I usually say that the purpose and the values are the water in that river.
Yeah.
So it's what keeps you, you're flowing in
Flowing.
purpose, you're
Yeah. It's
flowing
good.
in values. When you're living out your values, that vision and mission are the riverbanks. Now, people, like if you have that for a company, now everybody's moving in the same direction. And it just makes it so much better. It's a lot funner. It's
Yeah.
also much more effective and efficient. Often, unfortunately, too many times, organizations, businesses will have a vision statement written on the wall, but it hasn't reached the hearts. And I always say you got
Mm.
to take the vision statement from the wall and put it and write it in your heart. That's how you're going to see change come.
Mark, I have to ask, how do you
Yeah,
do that? Because, you're right. You walk into every establishment and you see the values, you see the vision, the mission on the
yeah,
wall, but you meet the workers and you meet the team players and the employees, and you're like, okay, this is not working. Like this is not coming across. And I mean, we've had that challenge within our own company as well. And so, what would you say are some essential steps, tips, keys
sure.
that we can use to get it out of our mind, get it off the wall, into our hearts, and into
Yeah.
application in our companies, in our lives, in our families?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, it has to be believed, and then it has to be experienced. And I liken it this way, and I'll give you the simple answer. It takes integrity.
Yeah.
So on this hand, I'll give you an illustration. On this hand, we have who I say I am and what I believe. So let's say I'm the company, I'm the leader of that company. This is who I say we are. This is what we believe. On this other hand is what we actually are and what we actually do.
Yeah.
The distance between those two hands is what I call integrity gap. That's an integrity gap. And what we want to do is keep those two things as close as
It's
possible
good.
so there's no separation in them.
It's good.
So that who we say we are as a company is actually who we are as a company.
Yeah.
So that flows. How do you do that? Well, the rope that keeps those hands tied together to not allow that integrity gap is relationship.
Mm.
If you don't, I can try and impose my values on you, or I can live with you, I can live them out with you, and you experience those values. So if a company says people first, but all of their actions are anything but,
Mm.
then you're not going to have alignment. And you're
Yeah.
going to come into that company, you're going to see the vision on the wall, and the employees are going to be grumpy, and they're going to be because they haven't been treated well. And so there has to be congruence or alignment between who you say you are and who you actually are. And those are some steps you can take. So one of those steps is regular communication, where in meetings and whatnot, you go over, you talk about the values, you talk about the vision and mission, and ask the question. A lot of leaders are unfortunately insecure, and they're
Yeah.
scared of the answers. They want to control things, so they kind of impose things. But if you took a position of a relational model, if you took that relationship serious, then you would actually ask questions rather than making statements. You take a curiosity position rather than a judgment position. And so now you're asking your team and saying, hey, how are we doing with that vision and mission? Are we living that
Yeah.
out? Are you experiencing that from me as a leader? And if they say no, then don't get all defensive.
Yeah.
Simply say, how could I do that to better express it to you? Because obviously there's a communication breakdown somewhere. And so the first step is transparency. I really believe, like in the book, which we're going to talk about in a minute, I say there's 5 pillars to a healthy relationship, the foundation of a healthy relationship. There's 5 pillars. These are transferable, whether it's business, organizations, families, any relationship, whether it's friendship, whether it's business, whatever it is. Number 1 pillar, trust. How do you build trust? Transparency. There's got to be transparency. If there's transparency, you're going to build trust equity. I liken it to a bank account. If you make deposits,
Yeah.
you have money to spend. If
Yeah.
you only make withdrawals, you don't have any trust equity. So just like our financial life needs equity, so does our trust bank. And so we need to build trust. And we do that through transparency. We do it by keeping our promises, letting our yes be yes and our no be no. And we do that by being loyal and expressing that loyalty. What does loyalty look like? Well, it looks like going above and beyond for somebody you care about. I heard a story of a company that lives like this, and everybody wants to work for it. And I asked how they've achieved that, and I got the standard answers from the leadership, but I was talking to some of the staff, and they says, "You know why I believe it? Like why I've got what they wrote on the wall in my heart?" And I said, "Sure, I'd like to hear that." They said, "We had one of our employees had a family member that was steeped in addiction, and they were really worried about him, but they couldn't afford addiction recovery. Like they wanted to send him to a recovery house and they couldn't, and the company paid for the whole bill so that
Wow.
that person didn't work for the company. It was
Wow.
somebody that worked for the company's family member,
Yeah.
but one of their values was to take care of each other. And so to them, what he said to me was, I believe what they say because I saw it happen.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's powerful.
Man, that's powerful. This is good stuff, guys. This is good stuff, and
Yeah.
we only have an hour, and I already can see that this discussion can go for 3 or 4 hours. This is
Yeah,
awesome
good.
stuff. If you guys have comments, questions, I want to encourage you. Feel free to join the conversation. Feel free to ask. Feel free to send them in. I'm loving where we're at, Mark, but I also want to talk a little bit about. You have a book out, Relationship Matters, right? And I want us to go a little bit into that.
Yeah.
And we've been saying tonight over and over, relationship, relationship, relationship. And some people, because of the current culture, we automatically assume really romantic relationship.
Yeah.
Can we define, when you're saying relationship, let's put a
Yeah.
definition on that word so
Sure.
that we can have a basis as we move forward.
Right. So let's shorten the word to relate.
Yeah.
Relationship is simply two people or a group of people relating to each other. And every single person, it's one thing we have in common, every single human on the planet. If there's maybe some things that we can say bind us together, and we have things in common, but there's not one thing that every human has except for relationships. That is one thing that we all have. We have to learn to relate to ourselves and then to relate to others. In the
Yeah.
book, I started off by telling the story. Even if you live on the side of a mountain, you still have to learn how to relate, because you got to relate to yourself and your environment so that you know how to survive. So in business, even business relationships still need to be nurtured. Now, they're different than romantic relationships. They're different than friendships or brothers and sisters or family relationships, but they're still relationships, and the principles carry through them all. But people will ask me all the time, well, I don't have time to nurture that many relationships. How do I do that? And I always say, how you determine that is by putting a value of importance on them. So, for example, with my wife, you bet I'm going to spend a lot of time building that relationship and relating to her and learning how I can relate with her that blesses her, and how letting her know when she relates with me, what blesses me. And so we learn each other. In business world, it's the same thing, except it's a different type of relationship. We still have to build trust. If I'm going to do business with you, I need to know that I can trust you, that you're trustworthy.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of maybe in the way the world is today, and maybe the last couple of years has been tough with COVID.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, business was coming pretty easy. Like people needed things and they bought it. If you're in a grocery business, yeah, people need to buy groceries, they're going to buy it. They don't think beyond that transactional.
Yeah.
So their relationships in business quite often stop at transactional relationships. But I can tell you, loyalty to a business goes beyond transactional to knowing that you care. And so when you know that they care, when they know that they actually are interested in what your needs are, It takes that relationship to a different level. And then my loyalty to that business is much stronger. I would be willing to spend a little more to if I feel that connection. And
Yeah,
so relationship is about connection. It's about feeling a connection with the place that you support or buy from or do business with. And
I like that.
if you don't have that, it's just transactional. And
Yeah,
if it's just transactional, there's no depth. And if there's no depth, that's okay in some cases. Like you said, you can't get to know everybody. But if you set the tone in your organization that you are relatable to your team, they'll be relatable to the customer. And then the customer is going to feel connected to you because because it passes on. It's a multiplication
yeah,
thing. And so that's what I believe
I love that.
relationships are learning to relate to one another and to relate to yourself. I think it starts there.
You said something here that I wrote down because I wanted to go back to it. But it says loyalty. Loyalty comes from knowing that they care, and I'm just thinking, even as like just right now, we're in a time where things are shifting, things are crazy. We're in a time
Mhm.
where business are adjusting on a very fast pace with the results from COVID. And you know, even I'll give you an example. Even for us, like when we go shopping, there are certain stores we go to because
Mhm.
they go the extra mile simply just to put an umbrella outside so I'm not standing in the sun waiting in a line.
Yeah.
You know, they would send someone outside to say, hey, um, ask me, like there's a certain bank I would go to because they would send someone out to ask, hey, is there, what do you need? They'll check
Yeah.
everyone so you don't have to be standing long there waiting just to make a simple
Yeah.
deposit. Or so there's little things that you can do as a company and as an organization to show that you care, and
Yeah.
people will be loyal to you because of that. You know, and there's a few company that comes to my mind immediately when I think about, okay, companies that show me that they care about not just my money but me as a person, right? And so
Right.
that is so key. Mark,
Exactly.
you know, and we're talking about your book, and as I was browsing through, you know, you talk about building a strong foundation, strong framework, a strong sturdy roof.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that. Like, help me to
Yeah. So
help us unpack that.
the metaphor of the book, which is like I say, transferable to any organization, family, organization, whatever, is built on the idea. If you want a house, and
Mhm.
boy, don't you know this down there? If you want a house that's going to stand in the storm, the hurricane, the
Yeah,
tropical storm, and you want it to last a long time, you need a few things. That
yeah,
house needs to have a solid foundation. It needs to have a very strong framework to hold it up, and it needs a sturdy roof. That's a pretty, everything else is decoration and room
yeah.
division. But those three things, if you have those, you have a good quality house. In the same way, if you want a quality relationships, if you want quality family, quality business or organization, you need to have a strong, like a very healthy foundation. You need to have that foundation that's going to hold the weight of the relationships.
Mhm.
Then you need to have a strong framework. And the framework is simply, how are we going to relate to each other?
Yeah,
What are we going to agree to? There's power in agreement. So how are we going to relate to each other? And then the third, the roof is so important. And the term is sometimes called a covering. What
mhm.
does a roof do? It protects you from the storm. It protects you from rain. When I was in Belize, by the way, we were out driving around and we hit like just, man, that rain can come hard and fast. And
Yeah,
we
so
ducked
true.
into a store with Patty and John George, and we stuck, with their kids, and we jumped into a store just to take shelter, because it was coming down so hard you couldn't even see. When that happens, I wanted a roof over my head. So we ducked into
Yeah,
that place so we could protect us. Well, a roof in the same way in our lives is what I call a covering or an authority that I've given permission to speak into my life. And I often say, every person I invite to speak into my life is another shingle in the roof of my covering.
mm,
And it protects me. So even business people that don't have, maybe it's not a big company that don't have board of directors and all that, I always say, why don't you get a friendly board of directors,
yeah.
which simply means they don't have necessarily authority in the business, but you've given them authority in your life and your leadership, and they can speak into the business. They can speak into your life. It might just be 2 or 3 people. That's where coaching comes in. It's so
I was
powerful
just
to
gonna
have
say that.
to have a coach for a business. A coach is not there to tell you what to do. That's a consultant. A coach is
Yeah.
there to dig out of you what you already know is there and then to hold you accountable to living it out. That's the
Mm.
power of coaching. So a coach would be like putting a shingle in the roof. A consultant is also good. It might be putting a shingle in the roof, and so on and so on. And so I always say the reason we don't do that is because maybe some of us, like I did, we have had a bad experience with authority in life. Maybe somebody in authority has abused that authority in our lives. And so we tend to, I'm going to keep everybody at bay. I don't want to hear from anybody. I want to control my own destiny. I don't want to hear, nobody's going to control me. I've heard many people say that. I don't need somebody in authority over me. But the problem is when we remove those people from our lives, we remove the roof off of our lives, and we remove the roof, the protection that we could have. The
Yeah.
problem is what we need to understand is what true authority is. And I go into that in the book. What true authority is designed to protect and to empower. I always say holding accountability is not me telling you what to do. Accountability is me holding you accountable to what you say you want to do. That's the difference. And
Yeah.
when you have somebody in your life that does that, that's when my life started to go. Because now I can be transparent. I have good trust equity, right? I can be transparent because I know that I have people in my life that will speak into it if I'm going off course. And that has made me trustworthy even for other people who I lead. When they're following me, they know I'm trustworthy because they know I have somebody I'm answering to. It's very powerful. So now
Yeah.
the roof comes into play, and that's kind of the premise. That's the frame. That's the book. Is the syllabus of that book is based on those three things.
No, I think that's great, Mark. And what I appreciate about that, and some folks might be watching and saying, oh, but we're talking about business. How does this connect? And we're talking about relationship and where is the connect? And one of the things I've experienced, I've had employees join our team, and we're coming into the workplace, and I have to not only be a boss, an employee, a leader of the team, I have to kick into parenting mode because there are some rules that and that how to relate and how to relate rightly with authority never got properly established in the life of that individual. So a lot of leaders, boss, employees are not just being boss, leaders, employees, leaders, they're also being parents in this time. And that's why this conversation is so important, because it's helping us as well to make those adjustments, to recognize what was missing, right. What are the areas that we need to build, what are the areas in the foundation that sometimes you might not just go back to the foundation. Sometimes it's breaking it down and say, hey, that we got to go back to some foundational stuff and we got to get in there. So help us to understand a little bit more the importance of good family relationship and how that impacts the workplace. Right. Because a lot of people come from broken homes, and broken relationships.
And you can't go back and be a child again and redo it. You have to learn how to relate. So one of the keys there is what I've already said, is to invite a few people to speak in your life. I had a call today from somebody who works for a company, and they just started. And they were phoning me almost to ask me permission. They didn't have to, but they were asking me advice, and they almost were. It felt like they were asking me permission to quit. But what happened is they when they started there, the boss told them, the manager of the store told them, "Listen, I'm very blunt, and so you're going to have to get used to that. I'm just very blunt." Well, what he's experienced is she's actually rude. She's actually mean. She's actually, And so it seems like, and I don't know the person, but it seems like they excuse their behavior by simply saying, well, I'm going to be blunt, or I'm going to say it the way it is, and without any consideration of change. Now, I want to say something that's really important here. We all have experiences as we're growing up, as I did, but they don't define me. They're just experiences. And I have to begin to realize that it's my responsibility to take responsibility for my life, and I get to choose the kind of person I want to be. And so there has to be a time in our lives where we say, you know what? Yes, we had some tough times growing up, Yes, there's been, maybe there's been trauma, there's been abuse, whatever. But at some point in time, are you going to allow that to continue to take the power from you, to take your life over, or are you going to take it over and manage your life? You don't want
Yeah.
to give that over anymore. And of course, one of the keys to that is forgiveness. That's another whole subject. But one of the keys there is to forgive those people so that you can move forward. A lot of people think forgiveness is for the other person, but it's actually not. It's for you. And
Yeah.
so, so one of the important things to realize um, is when we get into business, sometimes we will try to be successful at something in order to fight that fear of failure or that fear of rejection. So our motivation for
Mhm.
doing business or motivation for doing the things we do is kind of skewed. It comes through the wrong filter. Uh, I have a little portion I feel like I should share here. Self esteem is how you feel about yourself, self image is how you see yourself, self dignity is how you treat yourself.
Mm.
If you don't feel good about yourself, you clearly don't see yourself in the right light and you don't treat yourself well. That's why
Oh,
the outcome of that for me was obviously drug abuse,
yeah.
drug addiction. If you don't feel good about yourself, you can't feel good about others. If you don't see yourself in the right light, you can't see others in the right light. And if you don't treat yourself well, you can't treat others well. So now let's bring it into the business context. If I'm a boss and a leader and I don't feel good about myself, what am I going to do? I have to
Mm.
find that leverage somewhere to feel good about myself. And so I put all my marbles into success. Now my team is with me and they aren't performing to the level because I haven't got enough success yet. That hole will never be filled.
Yeah.
I know multimillionaires who have a big hole in their heart that has never been filled, and they've lost all their relationships because because of that hole. What we need to do is we need to start working on the self-esteem. We need to start working on that self-image. That was it for me. You mentioned it earlier.
Yeah.
As soon as I changed the way I saw myself, I started to feel better about
Wow.
myself. And
Wow.
I started to see myself as a leader, as an encourager. I started to get into my purpose path. And I know I've done many different things through the years, but my purpose has always been to encourage people.
Wow.
In fact, my vision statement for life is to reveal the value every person possesses and to reveal the value of God to every person. That's my
Wow.
personal vision statement. And it is a guide for me. It keeps me going. But how that's worked out has been in many different venues. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when you're leading an organization, when you're leading a business like you just referred to, and you have people that come in, you have to understand that they're coming in with their brokenness, they're coming in with those life experiences. So here's the quickest path to have them write the value on the wall, up from the wall to the heart, to be loyal to you, so that you don't have to babysit. And that is to build their self-esteem, to build
Mm.
their how they see themselves. It might feel like that's not my job. I'm here to run the business. No,
Yeah.
that is part of running the business, because when you make them see themselves in the right light, they'll make you successful.
It's
You
good.
don't have to make yourself successful anymore. Now, there's exceptions. I'm generalizing. I always say it's
Yeah.
simple, not easy, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is that, but we can only do our part. I can't control what somebody else does. And sometimes when you know yourself and your healthy boundaries, sometimes you got to make tough decisions. I've had to let people go before, and I hate
Yeah.
doing that because
Yeah.
I never want to give up on somebody. But
Yeah.
if they are creating a integrity gap in our organization, or an integrity
Mm.
gap in my heart, I have to do something about it. I have to close that back up again. And
It's good.
so I will entreat them. I will speak to them. I will encourage them. I will do everything I can to help them see themselves in the right light. But at the end of the day, if they refuse, I can't control them.
It's
All
good.
I can do is encourage them.
Mark, you are actually starting to answer, I believe, a question that one of our viewers, two questions that came in. You're already
Yeah.
starting in today, but let me read the questions. How do you motivate others, or what would you do if someone is just not interested in doing their part and we have a deadline to meet and I tend to draw away from those instead of building relationships? Thank you, Nadia, for sending that
Great
question.
question.
Great
Great
question. Yeah.
question. Well, here's the
Wait,
thing. I think Yeah, go
I,
ahead.
I
Sorry.
was no, I was gonna say, can we get the second part of that question because I feel like it's connected. It says sometimes
Okay.
you will get exhausted encouraging if you try more than one strategy to encourage. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it starts with authenticity. That's one of the pillars that I have in the book is authenticity. So what I mean by that is you have to be you have to be authentic to who you are. And so you encourage from that authentic place. And if the person doesn't receive it, that's where the hard decision comes in. Now you have a deadline. You have to. The encouragement is great, and you've cheered them on. I would always ask them, "Is there something I can do to help you succeed and hit that deadline?"
Mhm.
And if there's something I can do for you to help you that what's within my power, I will do that. If they still don't hit the deadline, and that happens 2 times, 3 times, it's time to let them go. If they're not interested, that's not, go back to your authenticity, go back to the vision and mission statement. Have they bought into it? If they are not interested in the vision mission, they just want a job and make their money, then maybe they're not the right fit for you.
Yeah.
And that's a hard decision to make. And sometimes it feels kind of brutal, but the reality is they're not happy either.
Mm.
I let somebody go once, and it was because of cleanliness. This is sounding crazy. Cleanliness
Wow.
had nothing to do with our organization in that sense. And, well, I'm not saying he was making a mess in our organization. I just, every time I looked at his car, he had like, fast food wrappers falling out of it, and it was just didn't represent who we were with excellence. Like, we want to be excellence, and it's not that big of a deal to clean your car out. And I had asked him several times, listen, you represent us and people see you, and in this case, it was a youth organization. You drive young people around. I think you need to show a little more self-respect, a little more
Yeah.
self-dignity, and clean up. Well, he didn't do it again, and I let him go. I had to tell him, you're done here until you get this figured out.
Yeah.
He got mad, left the organization. A few years later, came back to me and thanked me, said it was the best thing that ever happened to him.
Wow.
And the reason was because nobody in his life, he never had a father in his life to challenge him, to love him. And I never challenged him in a mean way. I challenged him in a loving way. And even when I asked him to go, I always say you want to separate personhood from behavior. I would strengthen his personhood and say, you're a great guy. You have a calling on your life. You have a way with young people. You have you got great potential, but your behavior is keeping you held back.
Yeah.
And so you need to change your behavior so that you can allow that potential to come out in fullness. And then they still don't respond. I'm trying to answer your question, Nadia. He still didn't respond. Well, then I had to make a tough decision, because now it was starting to give other people in the team permission to be messy, permission not to have self-respect. And so I had to make that tough decision. But like I said, he came back and thanked me because he had never had anybody hold him accountable. He said it sometimes, actually, you could ask Patty this, Mervyn. Sometimes I was told that, you kicked me in the butt, but I felt like a hug. And so that's my answer is you do you can only manage yourself. Return to the authentic, bring the person back to the vision mission statement and say, this deadline helps us fulfill that mission and vision. And if you can't do it, we need to know you can't do it. And so I'm asking you to get the deadline done. And if there's something that's inhibiting you from getting it done, tell me and I'll help you. I'll get you the resource that you need to get that done. If they just don't care, then they're not the right fit.
That is a really great response, and Nadia, I hope that helps you in your situation. I know it definitely was insightful for me, because many times I don't know sometimes the best way to go about confronting and see, even that's the word I use, confront, but relating and addressing a situation that needs to be addressed, and so that is a very gracious way. I love what you said, that you separate the personhood from the behavior, and then you deal with the behavior while maintaining that person. That's priceless. And guys, for those tuned in, I want to thank you for hanging in there with us. I let us know if what we're talking about is resonating with you. Let's see some of the comments. Let us know if this is making sense to you. And if you have questions, thank you, Nadia, for that question. If you have any more questions, feel free to send those in. We're in our last 15-minute segment of the show. Like these times go by very fast, and so
So fast.
very fast, right? And so, Mark, you've talked about why coaching is important. I know you've addressed a little bit of that earlier, and even why business is needed. I love that aspect of the covering
Mhm.
that we need, because even as a business or even an entrepreneur, someone who's, or even a startup, it's really key to have that covering and reference. For me, I've learned a lot of how to do business because of mentors, because of coaches and people in my life that I just simply went and asked, how do I do that? Even today, there was a situation with the curfew. I for the past couple of weeks, I had to sleep at the office because the show finishes at 8 and then Belize has a 7 p.m. curfew. So I didn't want to be
Uh-huh.
driving and breaking the law, right? So
Yeah.
after the show, I'm sleeping here at the office and I'm like, I want to sleep in my bed. So I reached out to a friend, a mentor, and I said, hey, how would you address this situation? And she was like, hey, just write a letter and say this. And boom, I was able to solve that issue simply by asking a mentor, right? So there's
There
so
you
much you
go.
can learn from
Uh,
having a covering. Is there any other thing you would want to add to the importance of having a coach, and why businesses needs coach?
yeah. I sometimes, like, I have two coaches. Sometimes I looked at that as a small business. Can I afford a coach? I came to the conclusion I can't afford not to have a coach.
Wow.
I have to have and the reason for that is because I can get so buried in the forest I can't see any trees.
Hmm.
So I need somebody outside of myself and outside my organization to help me, to coach me. Even relationship issues within the company, within the organization. You can't, it's not appropriate to go talk to other people in your organization about the problem you're having with another person. That would be undermining their authority, or it'd be
Yeah.
undermining yours because you're gossiping. And so you need a safe place to be able to vent out some thoughts. Now, not all coaching has to cost you money. It might be a friend that you trust. It might be a brother. It might be somebody that you know and can trust. But I will tell you that most coaches that are worth their weight are passionate about it to the point, like I know I am, where I would negotiate that fee.
Yeah.
It's for me, and for most business people, your bottom line should never be just profits. It should be people and profits. If those aren't at least equal, and I would say mine is people and
Yeah.
profits, then my motivation is to care and to love and to help. Then that's the kind of coach you want in your life, because they'll negotiate, they'll make it affordable for you, and scale with you. That if like for me, if I'm coaching a business and they're starting out, I'll make it affordable in the beginning, but I tell them up front, but we're going to scale with you. So
Yeah.
as you get successful, I'm going to get successful. That
I like that.
motivates me to make sure they're successful. So I think it's just so important to have somebody in your life that's coaching. And by the way, I know this is about business, but dads, get a dad coach. There's no manual really on fathering and being a dad, and many of us have had bad examples. Let me tell you something. Get a coach that can help you with the fathering pieces, because those fathering pieces are the same issues you're dealing with the work, the
Hmm.
employees. It's the same issues. You'll notice that, by the way, relational conflict happens across all platforms. And when there's one that's broken, it affects all the others. So if you want a healthy business, the best thing you can do is have a healthy family. So don't sacrifice your family for business. I've met so many business people that have spent all their time away from home, and I'm doing this for the family. I'm doing this for the kids. No, you're doing this to feel something in yourself, to be,
Yeah.
because you want to be with your kids. And if that means you don't make quite as much money, let me tell you something. If you offered your kids the money or your time, they'll take your time every time. And when you're sitting at the end of your life, you're never going to regret. I'm 60 this year, and I just turned 60, and I can tell you, I don't regret not working more. I
Yeah.
regret not having more time with my kids, and
Yeah.
so that is just an encouragement for you, that a coach, and think of a coach as a counselor, whatever, as a multiplier. So
Yeah.
you can get more done with less effort because you have the wisdom coming from outside yourself. And
Very good.
that is a powerful tool, and it's well worth it.
Very good. Man, thank you so much, Mark, for that insight. We have 10 minutes left, and there's so much more I
Okay.
want to get through. So I have one more question, and I'm going to ask if we can give a quick thought on this, and then I want to jump into the blind spot. And I see Fatima said I needed this. I agree. There's so much content, and I saw Nadia saying that she missed some of the answers. Guys, this is stored online, so if you want to go watch the reruns, it's on our website, creativemondayshow.com. All our episode, we post it there. We actually extract out what are the main points that you can go and see that and just really highlight that, right? So go to our website, creativemondayshow.com, and we will have this live on the show, live on the site. So Mark, the question, if we could briefly touch on this as an entrepreneur, and I have this issue as well as an entrepreneur, business owners. What's your thoughts around having a healthy relationship with yourself? The fact that we're having many hats that we have to wear. I'm a dad, I'm a husband, I'm a boss, and you talked a little bit about this earlier on with how we perceive ourselves and how we see ourselves. But give us some, just briefly, some insights on that as well.
Yeah, I think it comes back to that authenticity. I think that too often our motivation may potentially for the business. Here's what I want to say: you can't get your identity or your value from what you do. We're human beings, not human doings. You need to get your value of who you are. For me, it's from the Creator, it's from God. For you, it needs to be something intrinsic. It has to be something from greater than yourself. So your value, in other words, you can't get your value from how well your business does. If your identity is wrapped up in your business, then you're either going to overachieve. And by the way, once the business is super successful and you're famous and rich, you're still going to feel empty because you haven't come from an authentic place. And so that would be my number one answer, Mervyn, is that you have to do it. You want to lead, whether it's how you wear all those hats is by being authentically you. And so I'm the same person, whether I'm at home, whether I'm at work, whether I'm anywhere, I'm the same person. Now, my relationships are different in each of those spaces. So my conversations are different. Like I'm not going to have the same conversation at work as I do with my wife at home, but my attitude, my demeanor, who I am as a person is the same.
That's good.
And so that's one way that I think business leaders can really lead well is to know that you have value apart from what you do. It's not the success of your business that determines your value. And it's not your failures. That was the one thing I had to get over, that fear of failure. I had to realize my failures do not define me.
Thank you for saying that.
It's what I do after I've failed. Do I fail forward? Do I pick up? I see failure as a learning opportunity now, rather than I see it as an education. And in a lot of ways, it's been a much more efficient and effective education than I could have gotten paying $30,000 for university. In that way, and it's the same thing with conflict. People don't like conflict. They think, ooh, conflict. But the fact is, conflict is actually opportunity to go deeper in the relationship. True. It's an opportunity for discovery of finding out what makes somebody tick, what makes their heart tick. And that conflict, so you just want to, it's how you conflict. It's how you do business that makes the difference. That's what will define you. It's not the success of your business. It's the success of your heart. And I know that a lot of business doesn't like talking about this. They call it soft skills. But I want to just say that businesses that neglect soft skills are far less effective and efficient than businesses that pay attention to them. So I've coined a phrase. I don't call them soft skills. I call them essential skills.
I love that.
They are essential skills. Learning how to relate better by reading a book or taking a relationship course or a communication course, then that will all help you to relate better. And
very good.
Yeah.
Mark, we have 5-6 minutes, and I want to get two things in. So let's see if we can do it.
I'll answer quicker. Sorry.
Yes, and then and it's good because I'm being tested here because I value our viewers, and so our viewers' questions are more important than all the wonderful things I
Yeah.
want to try to do, right? So I
Right.
want to go to one more question that came in. This is from Monique. Can you share an example of a situation where you went out of your way to support your employees' goal rather than your own? What's the ideal work culture, and how do we cultivate it?
Okay, so that answer could be another whole hour show just on that
I know,
one
right? we, we
question.
we
That's a
probably
good
might need to do what I can
another.
actually. We should
We'll do
do
another
this.
one.
Yeah, we should do a off-air podcast of this,
Yeah,
and then we'll post it on the website. But you can give some thoughts
sure.
on that as well.
Yes. Well, first of all, I've what I've done is um, this is somebody that we had a connection with, association with through, and unfortunately his wife was assaulted, but they lived in another, not just another province, that's what they call it up here, but they lived in the United States. And I got in the car that day and I
Wow.
drove 12 hours, I think it was, or 15
Wow.
hours, something like that, down there just to sit with him and let him cry on my
Wow.
shoulder because and talk to his wife. And she was assaulted by somebody they took in to help. And
Mm.
so they were just really destroyed over that and broken. And so that's the kind of thing, that's the extra mile. That was an extra,
Real
800
extra
miles.
mile. Real
And
extra
so,
miles.
and then we've had other things where I had one person that worked with us that it was clearly not a fit. They weren't happy. They weren't and I actually went and found another organization that was doing more aligned things that they like to do. And I actually took them there and introduced them to the leader and gave them a recommendation. And that organization hired them, and they flourished. They
Wow.
flourished. It wasn't that they were failing in our organization or that
Just
our
was-
organization was failing them. It was that I did that. So what is a healthy culture? A authentic culture. That's, if you have authenticity, if you have the freedom within your organization for people to share openly, to share their heart, to share what they're seeing without a defensive reaction, without pushing back all the time. Now, there's nothing wrong with saying I disagree. There's nothing wrong with saying that I don't see it that way, but don't shut people down. Have an open, transparent culture, and you're going to see that organization flourish.
That is amazing. Well, thank you, Mark, so much. I really appreciate this.
Thank you.
Really good content. Guys, what I wanted to do, and we won't have time to dive deep into it, but I do want to show it to you. Mark has on his website, and if you go to his website, which is markgordon.ca, he has a section, and I'm going to pull it up if you can see it on the screen. It's a little bit small on my screen, but he has a section on what I offer. Let me get to it there. Yeah, on what I offer. And there's the blind spot assessment. Now, I did this week, and if you go to that section, and I just go to the site and do it. But what it does, it helps you to really identify what are your blind spots relationally and what you can do to strengthen those areas and really work on those areas. So I want to encourage you. It's a resource. We were going to go tonight and try to talk a little bit about what I discovered. But, you guys, your questions are much more important.
Okay. Well, here's what I'm going to offer your audience. Okay, Mervyn. If they take that blind spot assessment, it notifies me, and I'm going to offer a 30-minute free call to anybody that takes it from this show. So mention the Creative Monday
show.
Creative Monday show, and in there when it asks you what you're with or whatever, it's just it literally it's a 3-minute quiz, and it will tell you what your strengths are and what potential blind spots comes with that personality style. And I will do a 30-minute deep dive into your results with you for free.
Nice.
Over Zoom or whatever, just so that you can maybe see that, and it may help you. I know it's going to help you. It's helped many people. It'll help you with your relationships, whether at home or at work.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that offer, Mark. Guys, again, we're going to put this on the site. Go to Mark's website. We're going to put a link from our site to it. Do the blind spot assessment. And if you use Creative Monday Show, in the description, as you fill that out, Mark will give you a free 30-minute consultation. Guys, we are out of time, and there's more that I wanted to talk about tonight, but it's awesome. I'm really thankful. Mark, thank you so much for adding value to us, for just inspiring, motivating, and transforming our lives. Thank you for coming and being a part of the show and just really giving to our audience. Guys, thank you for tuning in and staying with us. We will be back again next week, same time, 7 p.m. right here, wherever you're tuned in from. Come back and we'll have another awesome episode lined up for you. God bless you. Have a great evening. Take care.